Now, I'm going to help you out here by clarifying essential payments. This is not really up for discussion as far as I'm concerned if you are struggling with paying off large amounts. What's up, guys? I hope you're well. Welcome to part 2 of our series on wealth creation. So in this series of videos, I'm discussing topics related to our ability to make more money. Last week, we spoke a little bit about the reason why you might want wealth. So answering that big question of why do you want to put time and energy into trying to make yourself money? For week 2, I thought it would be appropriate to talk about debt. A lot of people who have money worries and money problems, it's generally related to personal debt. And this might have come from credit card spending or from loans or even from things like education or buying a house or buying a car. The problem with debt is it's like a leaking ship. It's constantly you losing money as interest incurs on the loan or credit card or whatever it is that you've taken out. And the longer you take to pay it off, the more money you end up paying back. And it can get to the point where you're making such a small payment that if anything, your debt only seems to increase rather than decrease. And it's all well and good for us to sit here and talk about your savings and how you can start making investments and how to earn more money. But if you're leaking from the bottom of your ship, all of this stuff about making it go faster isn't going to matter if we're drowning the whole time. So I think addressing debt is a really important thing to do before we get on to methods of how to make more money. So first thing is, if you're in debt, there is no need to feel ashamed of it. It's a very normal thing, and a lot of people find themselves in that situation. And the problem with feeling loads of shame around your debt is you then tend to not talk about it, and you don't look for solutions on how to get yourself out of it. You bury your head in the sand, and when it comes to this is the worst thing you can do, because time is not your friend when it comes to debt. The idea of it is it's the exact opposite of what you want to be happening. What we want is we want to have money in accounts that earns interest. So over time, you get this compounding effect that the more money you have in that account, the more interest you're able to earn on that money. In debt, that literally works the opposite way. The larger the amount of debt, the more interest you end up paying each month, and that interest payment is added on top of your debt, which helps your debt to accumulate over time. And you end up compounding debt, which is a really dangerous and bad place to be in. So I want to give you some ideas for those of you that do deal with it. And for those of you who have no debt, well done. But you should still watch this video because it's important to understand, because like I said, this could be that you're going into higher education and you're going to accumulate student loans or a maintenance loan. It might be that you're going to buy a car for your family and you're going to finance that car. It might be that you're going to buy a home and you need to get a mortgage on that house. All of these are different types, but they all still are you borrowing money with interest. The first thing to understand when it comes to trying to pay it off is that it should take priority over savings and investments. There is no sense in you going out and investing in the stock market or taking out ISAs or anything like this when you've got this payment that's burning a hole in the back of your pocket. You're putting money in one end for it only to fall out the other. And whilst it's nice to see this account with a plus number next to it because it's got your savings in it, if that money could have been put towards paying off what was due, then you're probably going to be better off. Now, this can change because of interest rates, but generally speaking, the interest that you're going to pay on the stuff that you owe is going to be higher than the interest that you will receive on the money that you are saving and investing, at least in the short term. So we want to be able to clear the debt before we start thinking about how we can then increase our earnings and put more money away. So prioritize whatever money you have available towards clearing that bill. If you have multiple ones, go by the highest rate of interest. So whichever one is going to burn the biggest hole, whichever has the highest number next to it in terms of its interest, that's the one you want to focus on. Because you might have, let's say you have two. One's a credit card and one's a loan. And the loan is a much larger amount of money, but it has a smaller amount of interest to it. Now, this might vary, but generally speaking, again, I'm trying to give a very general bit of advice to anyone who might be watching this, who might get some help. If we can quickly pay off the high interest loan on the credit card, we can then focus our attention to the low interest, because it can be hard to know where to put your focus, where to put your attention. Do you do it 50-50? Do you pay off one and then the other? Generally speaking, I would say pay off one, the highest interest one, effectively first, and then focus all of that attention now onto the next one. I hope that helps. The next thing is you must stop spending. And when I say stop spending, I mean you need to cut back to the bare minimum of what you can survive on. So this means, and this is I think where people who struggle with this suffer, this means you don't buy any more new clothes. Do you have clothes that fit you and that are fit for function? By function, I mean, do they keep you warm in the winter? Do they keep you cool but covered in the summer? And can they get you to work without people effectively judging you based on your appearance, in the sense of you go to work and you have a hole in your trousers? We don't want that. But we don't need to buy any more because we have a set of trousers. Do you need to have 4 pairs of trainers? No, you need 1 pair of trainers for the time being. It's a luxury to have more than that. And that's what we need to be very clear on. Because every pound, penny, dollar that we spend that could have been put into clearing our debt, it's extending the lifeline of that debt, and it's extending the lifeline of the interest that we're paying on it. So take a pen and paper or open up a spreadsheet and very clearly write out all your essential payments. Now, I'm going to help you out here by clarifying essential payments. This is not really up for discussion as far as I'm concerned if you are struggling with paying off large amounts. Your rent/mortgage, the thing that keeps the roof over your head, is an essential purchase. The bills included in that, which I'm talking about, the gas, the electric, the water, the council tax. These things are essential payments that if you don't pay them, you can't do the very basics of life, which is stay warm, cook food, clean yourself. Internet is now, I would say, at a stage where it might be considered an essential, because a lot of us are earning money from working at home, and the internet is the way most things are now moving towards functioning in terms of even paying bills. But be aware, do you now need to have a fiber optic super fast broadband connection? Or can you get by for the short term with a much slower, much cheaper connection? Anything beyond those things are non-essential house payments, such as a Netflix subscription. Cancel it. Such as anything that you pay for that would be considered a luxury item for your house. These things don't need to be paid for at the moment. They can wait. It can be done future down the line. This goes as far as saying a window cleaner or the cleaner for the house. Or if you pay to have your food delivered and it's going to cost you more than it would for you to go get your food and come home. I won't dwell on it too much. You understand what I'm trying to say to you here. Essential payments. Now, your personal payments, it might be that you have a mobile phone and that's an essential payment, fine. But again, do you need 20 gigabytes of data? Do you need to have the latest phone? Or can you use the same phone for another year and get yourself a SIM-only contract, which is going to be cheaper? Individually, all these payments don't mean a lot. Netflix, £5 or so a month. Your phone bill, get it down £5 or so a month. But if you can do this 10 times over, think about the cumulative savings. And again, this money is going straight towards this bill that you need to pay off. And if you're able to then pay it off, it frees that money up to then go back into savings and investments. So cut down on your spending, get down to your complete essentials of living and feeding and supporting your family. And understand and come to peace with the fact that you can go through a period of time with very little to no luxury. A very dangerous thing that we say to ourselves as people is, I deserve a treat. The problem with you always establishing if and when you deserve a treat is that's a very variable game you're playing with. This is where you see people who exercise and then say they deserve the treat of eating a dessert that's going to cancel out any amount of calories that they burnt. Exactly the same here, where you might go a whole week being very sensible with your money and then say, I deserve these pair of shoes at the end of the week because I've been so sensible. But all you've really done is take 7 or so bad financial decisions and push them into one that happened at the end of the week. You're no better off. You might feel a little bit better for it, but it's a short-term fleeting high of feeling any better, because the reality is you've not changed your situation. Minimize your spending, consolidate your debts where possible, and pay the highest interest ones first. Okay? The final thing is you need to understand that new debt isn't going to help the old. So cut up credit cards at this stage. Do not get another loan to help pay off the loan. You need to understand that you are at a stage where there needs to be a cutoff. It needs to go cold turkey on that spending so that you can start moving in the other direction. If you can work extra to pay it off. What I mean by this is, if you can do freelance work, if you can get a small part-time job on top of the one you have, if you can find any way of making a little bit of extra money in your spare time, it is highly recommended to do so whilst trying to pay this off. Because again, time is not on your side. So the quicker you can do it, the less you're going to suffer in the long run with it. And the faster you'll be able to start putting interest to work to benefit you through savings and through investments. Understand that anyone who works in the world of providing credit is reliant on you being complacent with that credit. The whole model of lending money out to people, the way they make money from doing so, is by you failing to give the money back. And this is the best of lenders. This is not just a loan shark that's lent you more money than they think you can handle so that they can purposely, break your legs and take everything you've ever worked for. Even the best of lenders, this is the model of which credit works on. You borrow an amount of money and they might incentivize you by giving you 0% on purchases for a year or 0% interest on transfers and all of this. The biggest thing for them is to get you in. And then they are reliant on people, because this seems to be what happens, who are complacent with making payments. Because then they can charge you a late fee. That late fee, it will be packaged as saying that it's to discourage you from being late on your payments because you don't want to pay the late fee. The reality of it is they've realized enough people are late on their payments that they can actually make a ton of money off of late fees. And even if you're not late on your payments, but you're making payments and not paying off the entirety of your debt, you are incurring interest on your payments every single time. Which, guess where it's added to? It's not taken from a separate place. It's added to your debt. So the next time when they're taking that interest, it's taking it from not only the money you've borrowed, but the debt that's been put on top of that by the interest that you've had to pay. And you can see how this cycle continues and you can get buried in it. Don't be afraid of it, but do understand that it is the enemy. And if you bury your head in the sand and you avoid it, it will only get worse. The small caveat for this is things like student loans and things like mortgages, which are extremely large amounts of money. Student loans in particular are generally backed by governments, depending on the country that you live in. And there's a payback scheme in terms of how much you need to earn before you're paying it back, and that it comes out of your paycheck and it doesn't necessarily impact your credit score when it comes to then getting a mortgage. I don't know how true any of that stuff is. You should still treat it as a debt that you need to pay off. But there is a difference between that and credit cards and store cards and small loans and all the rest of it. So guys, I hope this information was helpful to you. If you are struggling with debt, the biggest thing I would say is go get financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. Everything I've said in this video is just purely based on my own personal experience with dealing with it. So go seek professional financial advice, speak to your bank, speak to a financial advisor, and try to find a way to pull your way out of this so that you can start making money work for you. In the same way that these banks make money work for them, you can do the same thing. But the first thing you have to do is get out of the clutches of people that are sucking you dry through interest via pretending that they're trying to help you out by giving you a loan, credit card, store card, etc. So guys, as always, take care of yourself and I'll see you on the next one.